Hi, my name is Terry, and I am from Terri Loves Books, and I'm here today with Robbie Cox. Hi, Robbie.
Hey there.
And this is another pop-up interview. And the great thing about these pop-up interviews, the reason I call them that, is you never know when they're going to happen. I just like to just schedule them and just throw them out there. Nothing's scheduled before. Well, I kind of schedule, obviously, with the author, but it's all unscripted. It's just me having fun talking with people that I like, that share my love of writing and my love of reading. And so it's a lot of fun. So authors, if you're out there watching this and you'd like to connect with me, just please go ahead and do so. If you haven't liked my Facebook page, please go ahead and do that. I'd really appreciate that. The more people who like it, the more people I can share all the great things that I learn about books and upcoming authors and upcoming books, and just have fun with it. So like I said, we're here with Robbie Cox today. And Robbie, what are you drinking this morning?
Coffee, as always. It's either coffee or Jameson, one or the other.
Well, it is morning, so, I guess you could have the Jameson, but it makes for a rough afternoon probably.
Yeah, that it does.
Are you drinking black coffee?
Black coffee, straight up and strong.
I'm actually drinking some Irish breakfast tea this morning.
Oh, nice.
Nice. So, Robbie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you write and what you got going on right now?
I write a little bit of everything. I get an idea of whatever genre it fits is where I go. I write urban fantasy. My Warrior of the Way series is urban fantasy. I write contemporary romance like the Rutherford series and the Harper Twins. And I've been getting into paranormal romance with my Sanctuary of Bull Creek series. And then we've actually got a new paranormal series coming out called Draven Falls, which will open up all kinds of genres within it. So we're excited about that.
So for anybody who doesn't know, can you explain the difference between urban fantasy and paranormal fantasy?
Well, urban fantasy is, this is my definition, could be right or wrong. Urban fantasy to me is a fantasy book that takes place basically in today's modern world. It's Warrior of the Way has all kinds of fairy elements. It has fairy creatures and elves and gargoyles, and it deals with a realm called the Land Under, which where they live and time changes and is different there. Paranormal to me could fall under urban fantasy, I guess. To me it's more witches and vampires and shifters, werewolves and stuff like that. So I think the cast of characters I think is what makes it different.
Okay, so in your series Warrior of the Way, which I won't bug you to hurry up and get the next one out, I promise. I won't say that. I won't bug you. Just don't worry about it.
Releasing June 1st.
Okay.
Actually, we're going to do a launch date for paperback only at the Space Coast Book Lovers event.
Oh, good. We're going to talk about Space Coast. And, like I said, nothing scripted here. We're going to talk about Space Coast in just a minute. But Richard is a human who's been exposed to this paranormal world, where in your Sanctuary of Bull Creek, right? That's his name. All of those characters are already of the paranormal world. They're shifters, and there's a witch in there.
Right.
Okay. So do you feel like when you write fantasy that there's a hard set of rules that you have to follow, or do you just make them up as you go along?
With my urban fantasy, I pretty much make it up the way I go. I did a lot of research on folklore and urban legends and myths and history of mythology and stuff, and I try to pull those characters into my urban fantasy series. The Lore Master, the second of the series, Warrior of the Way, we saw a Mero, which is like a mermaid, a lot more violent. It's actually a creature of mythology, and I pulled that character in. With my paranormal series, I try to follow the rules that have been set down by previous authors, basically because that's what the readers are expecting. I will change things a little bit to fit my style and my story, but I think the bare bones is pretty much following the rules that have already been set down for that genre.
Okay. Now, your recent one, and I'm going to probably get there's Blades of Sass and Shards of Sass.
Yes. Shards
Blade.
of Sass is the first one, Blades of Sass is the second one, and then Touch of Sass will release the beginning of May.
Okay, now you are part of a Kindle World with that one, right?
Yes, that is Millie Taden's Sassy Ever After series.
Okay, explain a little bit about the Kindle World situation.
Kindle World is basically, to me, it's fan fiction to a degree. It is Millie Taden has this great shifter world, Blue Creek, with the Wolf family, Barbara Wolf, and her kids and family, and people, other authors are invited to come in and write stories in her world using her rules for that world, which is why I said I tend to follow that, what's already been laid down. They can create their own characters. They can even create their own setting as long as they use some of the main characters and the main focal point of that story and follow the rules of that story. So Sanctuary of Bull Creek is my characters, my story. Bull Creek's even my creation. But I have talked about Barbara Wolf, the matriarch of the family, and Blue Creek, where there's still some connection there, but the stories and characters are mine.
Okay. Now you mentioned Space Coast earlier, so why don't you talk to us a little bit about Space Coast and why everybody needs to try to get down to Florida at the end of May.
Space Coast Book Lovers event last year was our first. It was awesome. We had 75 authors at International Palms Resort in Cocoa Beach. We had 350 to 400 readers come through the doors during the book signing. We had industry professionals such as yourself that were there, the bloggers that were there, personal assistants were there. We just had a great time. It was a 4-day event, Thursday night to Sunday morning, and there was always something going on. I was tired Sunday night and I fell asleep early. It's just exciting. This year it's going to be a little bit different. We got some new things going on, some surprises that I can't announce yet. One of them, however, is the release day thing that we'll be doing. There are several authors that are going to be releasing their books for the first time at Space Coast. You won't be able to get them in ebook or anything else. You can buy them in paperback before the rest of the world even sees them at Space Coast. So that's going to be exciting. That's where the Warrior's Blade will be released.
Yay!
My third.
Not going to bug you about it. I'm not bugging. I told myself I wouldn't bug you about it, but.
Yeah, that's okay. Sarah's doing a good job pushing it through anyway. So I'm getting bugged on all sides. But it's just a great event. The energy is awesome. The authors are great. We got some talented authors. I think we've got some coming from Australia and everything else to participate. It's just, I'm very excited to participate and be a part of it. Terri does a great job. Terri Edney does a great job putting it together, and she's got Char and Sarah behind her pushing and doing a lot of the legwork. So it's great. Last year was fantastic. This year's going to be better.
Yeah, I really enjoyed myself last year, and I'm looking forward to going again this year and planning already to come back next year.
It's good. Florida beaches. It's great. It's right on the beach. Our room opened up and we could watch the sunrise from our balcony. So
wow,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and have you coordinated with NASA so that we can do another launch?
That was perfect timing last year, wasn't it? To have a launch in the middle of the thing. So I don't know what's going on, but they do them quite often. So who knows?
Okay, so you go to a lot of different book signings, and the question I have for you is, let's pretend that you are talking to a new author who's going to their first book signing. What are some things that you would suggest, and some tips and some hacks, and just how would you advise them?
I think a lot of reasons authors don't succeed at book signing events is because they sign up for the event and they expect the host to do all the work. I sign up for the event and then I do all my work. The difference between the host getting people through the door is they're just people through the door. The author wants people to come through the door to see them specifically. So post in the group, be active in the Facebook group for that book signing. Let the readers know you and interact with them so that you're not a stranger to them, that you're familiar. And once they get to know you, they're going to want to come see you and talk to you and invite them to do things and stuff like that. Participate. To me, it's all about relationships. It's all about getting to know the readers, letting them get to know me. You're familiar with my readers group. We have a lot of fun in there, and that's where I'm the most real, is in that group. And we just have a lot of fun. And to me, that's what makes it successful. I mean, I've had I've been fortunate enough to have people drive 2 or 3 hours to come see me at a book event and stuff like that, and it's because of the relationship that we have with each other. So to me, that's it. Build relationships.
So you mentioned relationships. Do you think today's readers, the repetitive buyers, are they buying your book or are they buying Robbie Cox? Does that make sense what I'm asking you?
It does actually. I just spoke a couple of weeks ago at a writers group here, and I said the same thing. I think in a lot of cases you're not so much you're selling your books, but you're also selling yourself. You're building that loyalty with your readers and your fans, to whereas they love what you're doing because they understand you a little bit better. You're not some cold name on a bookshelf. You're somebody that they interact with on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and they talk to you and you talk to them, and there's a relationship there. So they know you a bit better, so they know your stories a little bit better, and they'll buy them and read them and love them because it's you.
Yeah, I actually got in a conversation with somebody recently. There's a big name. There's a couple big name authors who have moved their series into cable shows. One in particular that involves a specific kind of seat that a king would sit upon, but we won't talk about names or titles. And I don't watch the show, and I stopped reading all of his books because I just felt like he really didn't care about me, because he never did another book. He takes so long. There's no connection. I mean, obviously I'm not going to, J.K. Rowling's not going to come knock at my door and go, "Hey, Terri, how's it going?" But I see her. I see when she connects to people. I see where she goes out and she tries to build some kind of a relationship with her readers. And I think it makes a huge difference.
In today's day and age with technology and smartphones and everything else, I think it's important for the author to be accessible to a degree.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because
build that relationship.
Because I think especially with the indie world, it's so much easier to connect with the authors.
Yeah.
They just seem to be a little bit, maybe because they don't have the go-betweens, they don't have the agent, they don't have the publishing company who's like, I mean, I've tried to interview a couple of bigger author. Well, I shouldn't say bigger. That's not really fair to anybody, but just authors that are more with the big houses.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to get approval to go through their agent, and then I have to get approval to go through their publishing house. And it's just not worth it. Where I feel like, especially like with you and with other authors I worked with, I can just say, "Hey, Robbie, you want to come be on my show?" And you're like, "Sure, that's great. Let's do it." And I like that. Excuse me, I'm sorry, my phone just went off. I like that a lot.
I think even with traditionally published authors, I'll say that it's just a personality trait. I think sometimes too. It's a couple years ago at my 50th birthday party, the girls did their best to try and get a couple of my favorite authors to wish me a happy birthday. Now there was tons of my friends in the indie author world that we had video clips of that were wishing me a happy birthday. But then they reached out to two of my favorite traditionally published authors, Terri Goodkind and Terry Brooks. And Terri Goodkind just couldn't even be bothered. It was, this is beneath me. I don't want to be bothered with this, yada, yada, yada. Terry Brooks and his assistant did everything they could. He was even going to hold one of my books in his hand while he spoke to me, except that he was traveling and we couldn't get the book to him fast enough. But he was on the film projector when I walked in, wishing me a happy birthday at my party because he took the time to do what he could for his fan. Yeah. And I'm definitely a fan of his. And I keep reading his books, and to be honest, I haven't read any of Terri Goodkind since. So, it's when they give you that, when they make you feel special like that, you've got to, it just builds something in you that you're sticking to them.
I think it does, because I think for me, I still see any published author as some kind of I don't want to say, not necessarily a hero, that may not be like the right word, but I just admire them. And so when I can, when they like a post I did on Twitter, or when they dislike something on Facebook or whatever, even just that simple 2.5 second thing, it really helps. It makes my day so much. Mm-hmm. So what do you got going on next?
We have Always Amy, which is up for pre-order right now on Amazon. which will release the end of March, the end of this month, 27 days. That's my third and final book in the Harper Twins series about two sisters that started off fighting over the same man and then going off in different directions. I have three books going at the same time. Touch of Sass, which will release in May, which is the third of my Sanctuary of Bull Creek series for the Kindle World. And then at the end of that month, there'll be The Warrior's Blade, which is the third in the Warrior of the Way series.
Awesome.
That's just for the first half of the year.
Now, you mentioned something about a new series that you have that you're working on.
Draven Falls. We've been working on this for a little while behind the scenes. I shared it with my readers group, Robbie's Rascals, first. I haven't announced it anywhere else. So this is the second announcement. But it is, I had so much fun with Sanctuary of Bull Creek. And that's another reason, actually the only reason I got into Sanctuary of Bull Creek, the Sassy Ever After series, was because the readers in my readers group were pushing me to go write for this. They wanted me to write for this series.
Oh, okay.
Because I had turned it down before. So because of them, I'm in this series. And because of them and the series, we came up with Draven Falls. I wanted to create a world that could have multiple genres within it. We've got YA stories that will be coming out. We have adult romance that will be coming out. We have mystery that will be coming out. And it all focus on this township in North Carolina called Draven Falls that has been in existence since the 1600s. It has some descendants from the Salem witch trials involved. It has it has shifters of all kinds. I've got gorillas and bears and
gorillas. I have never seen a gorilla shifter book.
I've got a couple of otters shifters that are just mischievous and playful. And Shar helped me create those characters, and Terri and Sarah have been doing great with the other characters that are coming up. We may even have an elephant shifter in there at one point. We have witches. There will be different covens involved. There are vampires and demons. You name it, it's going to be in this town. Basically, the town was created back in the 1600s when they were hunting down witches and in this book, storyline shifters into the paranormal world. And so they founded this little township at the bottom of the Appalachian Mountains to be a safe haven, a place where they could be themselves without fear of persecution. And it just created. So there'll be some prophecies involved, all kinds of things. We just went out with everything in this world.
I just recently stumbled across a book, and I have it on order. I bought a used copy, so it's going to take me a little bit to get it. But it was Paranormal Stories of the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes I read these things, and then I read stories like what you're talking about, and authors do such a great job with research. There's a tiny part of me that just thinks maybe all this stuff really did exist.
Some of it, I'm sure. I think of that with the urban legends. I was reading a book called The Encyclopedia of Urban Legends because I have to write a short story for an anthology. And I was thinking about this. Some of this stuff sounds like it could actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody had to come up with a story somehow to base it off of. So there may be a little bit of truth in everything.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on over and spending some time with me. I'm absolutely loving this format because it's just fun to.
It is fun.
And it's not like we can not like I can fly down to Florida or drive down to Florida just to say, hey, Robbie, let's spend a couple minutes and talk, and I'm going to turn around and come back.
Definitely.
So here, we're going to cheers for our going out.
Cheers.
Cheers. As always, with everything I do, it's really important that everybody understand there's one, it's become my motto. It's become what I live for. And I think it's because it took me so long to realize the truth behind it. All you got to do is believe you can fly. That's all you got to do. Just step out there and believe you can fly. So thank you very much. I'll make sure and post all of Robbie's social media connections down below in the links. So you can go like him, you can like me, spread the word. I'm looking to interview readers. I'm looking to interview writers and authors and book bloggers. I'd love to interview some professional industry type people. So pass the word around. Robbie, stay on the line for just a quick second and we'll wrap it up. And thank you very much.